You're listening to Aimee Keeps It Creepy, the podcast where I share my obsession with true crime and the paranormal with you. I'm your host, Aimee Brooks. Poisoned birthday cake? An ear cut off as punishment for eavesdropping? Ghosts that love to photobomb? This is the Myrtles Plantation, said to be the most haunted location in America. I am so excited about this episode. The Myrtles Plantation was one of the original episodes that I pitched to my producer partner, Rick LaFond, for this podcast. The Myrtles is a super creepy place, and I have been there. Ooh, I have, and it's awesome. The Myrtles is so creepy. I have personal paranormal stories to share with you. I had the opportunity to tour the Louisiana plantations last year when I was researching the book I'm writing. It's a young adult paranormal historical fiction book that takes place on a southern plantation and shows the real day-to-day stuff that I couldn't find in a history book. You know, the real story about what it was like being a teenager on a southern plantation before the war, the glamour and the horrors. So I went to the source, the plantations and living museums around the River Road area, just outside of New Orleans. The book has been so fascinating to research and write, and hopefully it's interesting to read. It's a combination of my favorite things, history and the paranormal. But more on the book later when I finish, I promise. I work on it whenever I can in between podcasting, filming, and producing the new film I'm working on. Okay, so when I was in Louisiana, I went alone and very, very preggers. It was sort of a solo baby moon adventure before I was to be knee-deep in new mommy duties. I went in the off-season in January, so most of the tours of these massive, creepy plantations were literally by myself, just me and a tour guide. In fact, sometimes the tour guides just said, just go check out the place yourself. And I gave them a big tip. Okay, it was awesome. On my top list of must-sees were the plantations in Francisville, Louisiana. Rosedown, one of my absolute favorite plantations, and of course, the infamous Myrtles Plantation. This place has history for me. When I was a kid, I remember watching ghost hunters explore the Myrtles. You know you've seen that episode. I think ghost hunters made the Myrtles famous and also infamous. The ghost hunters claimed it was one of the most haunted places in the U.S. So I have always dreamed of going there. Picture it, pouring rain. I drive up to the creepiest place I think I've ever seen in my life. And it's just me and a little baby inside me. The restaurant is closed, the guests have checked out, and it's dead-ass quiet there. I get out of my car and waddle over to the front to take photos. And the photos are awesome. It's rainy and moody looking. I could sell them. Exactly what you would picture a haunted plantation to look like. Okay, it gets creepy now. Here is the fast forward. I went through my hard drive looking for photos to post on the website, creepypodcast.com, for the show. I decided to blow up a few and look closer. In one of the photos of the exterior shots of the mansion, I was shocked to find a face of a child staring out of the window of the plantation. Oh my God. I blew it up. I looked at it. I stared at it. I showed others. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It is a ghost, my creepsters. My first photo of an actual ghost that I've taken. It looks like a boy. He's ghost pale. If you look at the size of the window where he's at, he looks to be, I don't know, between 7 and 9, maybe even younger. The photo's crazy. He's ghostly, pale, almost glowing, probably because he's a ghost. The photo's crazy. Check it out yourself. I can't explain it. I would love your thoughts. Wow. The window he was seen at was in a locked area. I know this because I was the first and only tour there that morning. And I watched my tour guide unlock the door. there were no children there. Lots of kids died on the grounds, which I'll get into, including the murdered children who countless people have claimed to see. Of course, they also claimed to see the enslaved woman who accidentally killed them. Her name is Chloe, and I'm sure you've heard the stories and seen the iconic ghost photo of her if you know anything about the Myrtles. I'll also post the famous photo of her on creepypodcast.com. Crazy. I have now photographed 3 spirits, and all of them were in Francisville, Louisiana. What is up with Louisiana and its creepiness? It is a very haunted place. If you have stories, I want to hear them. I've been gathering personal stories from listeners because I want to add a new segment of personal, creepy, true crime and paranormal stories. So anyway, contact me. Back to the story. The other 2 photos, which I will post on the website creepypodcast.com, are from Rosedown Plantation, which is very close to the Myrtles. One is an old woman, and the other is a very beautiful younger woman. Both of them were looking at me through the window. Creepy. And I will say that again, I was the only person on the property except for the male parks manager who was in the office. He later gave me the tour of the property. These photos rocked my world, and they'll rock yours too. Check them out. I also picked up an EVP at Rosedown while I was all alone on the porch taking a video of the grounds, and I'm going to put it in a YouTube video that I'm going to post. It's pretty awesome. Since I started this podcast and my YouTube channel, seriously, guys, I've had to question everything I thought was real and unreal. It's hard to deny that spirits exist from the EVPs I've captured, and now the photos I've taken. I'm a visual person. I'm a filmmaker. Getting this visual content is, wow, it's changed my mind a lot. I've had experiences all my life, but actually seeing this evidence, it's crazy. And I swear to you that nothing is doctored or manipulated. I haven't needed to do anything like that, and I wouldn't. That's stupid. Check out my YouTube channel, which I just started. I have 30 episodes in the can ready to launch every week, including the first episode of my Pajama Time Ghost Hunt, which I'm posting more episodes to my Patreon page. That's the ghost hunt of my own haunted house. There's also videos of my paranormal adventures and my episodes from my paranormal road trip across America. I'm also going to be posting a video version of the podcast on my YouTube channel because I know a lot of people like to get their podcast content from YouTube. And fans have been asking me for it anyway, so I really want to give you the content you're looking for. Check out the show notes for my links or just go to creepypodcast.com. And please subscribe to Aimee Keeps It Creepy on Apple Podcast or wherever you podcast so you never miss an episode. And also, subscribe to my new YouTube channel for more creepy fun. Our creepy candle for this episode that I am burning right now from acandlestore.com is Haunted Plantation. Perfect, because we're talking about the Myrtles, right? There is a hauntingly beautiful plantation mansion on the label. The scent is pralines, bourbon, and burnt sugarcane. I'm burning it right now, and it smells so good. It's definitely my new favorite candle from A Candle Story. Unfortunately, bad news here, my listeners love candles as much as I do because the site, acandlestory.com, is sold out. You cannot buy these at the moment. I have a feeling it's my Aimee Keeps It Creepy listeners who bought them out. Completely sold out. They are taking email addresses if you want to go to the site and sign up for the mailing list to be contacted when they are restocked. These candles are ARTISAN, hand-poured, luxury vegan wax candles. A Candle Story specializes in scenting your space with a story. And right now, my studio smells like, a plantation ghost story, which is surprisingly alluring and delicious. Pralines, bourbon, and burnt sugarcane. Yum. A Candle Story is sold out, But I am giving away 10 of these artisan candles to my listeners. All you have to do is write a review of Aimee Keeps It Creepy on Apple Podcast or wherever you podcast, and email me at info@creepypodcast.com. You can also message me on Instagram @creepypodcast. Make sure to leave me your screen name so I know you reviewed the show. That's all you have to do. Write a review to help a girl out and email or message me to let me know you did it. Your reviews are greatly appreciated. Thank you, and help a new show more than you can imagine. Plus, you get the chance to win one of these amazing candles from acandlestory.com. Good luck. Oh, and don't forget, you can find me on Instagram @Miss Aimee Brooks. The Myrtles Plantation is said to be the most haunted house in America. Many mysteries and lore surround the Myrtles, including a rumor that it was built on top of an ancient Tunica Indian burial ground. Never build on an ancient burial ground! Come on, we've all seen that movie. Today, the property not only serves as a bed and breakfast and operates tours, but it also is home to at least 12 spirits that are seen regularly by guests, including me. Oh man, you have to see the ghost photo I took. Go see it. The house was originally built in 1794 and was later expanded in the 1850s to its current size. There are a total of 22 rooms in the two-story mansion, with 5 bedrooms, a formal dining room, parlors, and several ornate staircases. The decor is gorgeous, and most of the floorings and windows are original. It's beautiful, and the furnishings are spectacular. However, none of those are original to the house, through the various ownership changes and the looting and destruction of the property during the Civil War. The Myrtles Plantation was constructed by David Bradford, and since that time has allegedly been the scene of at least 10 murders. Oops. David Bradford was one of 5 children born in America to Irish immigrants. He became a successful attorney, businessman, and deputy attorney general for the county. Totally a self-made man. His first attempt to marry ended only days before his wedding. No details are known about this, but I'm sure it was a good story. No one ends an engagement days before the wedding without drama. He later met and married Elizabeth Porter in 1785 and started a family. Now, General Bradford has a place in history for his role in the Pennsylvania Whiskey Rebellion of 1799. He was on the run for a while, but was eventually pardoned by President John Adams and moved his family into the Myrtles Plantation in 1799. Now, at the time, the property was called Laurel Grove. God, I love that name, Laurel Grove. It's kind of better than the Myrtles, but okay, the Myrtles. Bradford would sometimes take in law students, and one of those students was Clark Woodruff. Clark was hot for the boss's daughter and ended up marrying Bradford's daughter, Sarah. They honeymooned at Andrew Jackson's home, the Hermitage. Now, this family was in with presidents, that's for sure. Wow. General David Bradford died in 1808. Clark and Sarah moved into the Laurel Ridge to help Elizabeth manage the home. Clark expanded the holdings of the plantation and planted about 650 acres of indigo and cotton. Yeah, right, he planted them. That is slave labor. Clark wasn't planting anything. He was an attorney. He was, I think, managing everything. Sarah Matilda gave birth to 2 daughters and was carrying a 3rd child when an event took place that still haunts the Myrtles today. Clark Woodruff had a reputation in the region for integrity with the law. I believe he was even a judge. However, he had a reputation for being promiscuous with the ladies. And while his wife was pregnant with their 3rd child, he started an intimate relationship with one of the slaves. This particular girl, whose name was Chloe, was a household servant who, while she, of course, was forced to give in to Woodruff's gross sexual demands, realized that if she didn't comply, she would be sent to work in the fields, the most brutal of the slaves' work. Such a typical story for enslaved women of the day, to have to service the master, to keep their position, or to stay alive. So awful. Chloe was terrified that she would be sent to the fields, either because she lost favor with Woodruff or because the children were getting older. They would no longer need her to care for them. In fact, Woodruff had become bored with her and had turned his lust on another poor enslaved girl. Oops. Chloe would eavesdrop on Woodruff and Sarah for fear that they were talking about her and her fate. She got super paranoid. One day, Chloe was caught listening in on a private conversation. Big no-no. When she was caught, her punishment was severe. Her ear was cut off. Oh, I think Woodruff was trying to make an example of poor Chloe. The story goes that she always wore a scarf wrapped around her head from that day forward to hide the mutilation. Of course she did. That's awful. It is said that guests that stay at the Myrtles have a single earring taken from their room and never see it again. Oh my God, right? Because Chloe had only one ear left. Oh, she only stole a single earring. That is also very annoying, Chloe. Bad Chloe. When you take the tour at the Myrtles, you see the door where Chloe was eavesdropping. It's a sliding door, and you can just imagine the door sliding open, and Woodruff is there and Chloe getting caught. Oh, so much drama. Well, Chloe wasn't sent to the fields as she had feared. She was sent to the kitchens. Now, to put this into context, you have to remember the hierarchy of the slave jobs. Being a house servant was probably the job with the least amount of injuries, backbreaking work, and harsh Louisiana sun. If you can even say that. Being enslaved is cruel and evil, period. But for argument's sake, Chloe wanted back in the house desperately. So she came up with a plan. Oh, poor Chloe. It wasn't a good plan. It was not a good plan. Chloe knew about oleander leaves. Oleander leaves, poisonous in large quantities, but a little, say, baked in a cake, would only cause sickness. And then Chloe could be there to nurse the family back to health, show them her worth, earn Woodruff's gratitude, maybe his gross bed back again. Not the best conceived plan, but it was her best attempt to get her old position back. Of course, some say her plan was purely motivated by revenge. I'll let you decide. Whatever the reason, Chloe put a small amount of boiled and reduced oleander leaves, poison. She put poison into a birthday cake that was made in honor of the Woodruff's oldest daughter. Oh my God. How do you know how much to put in? And what if the kids go in for seconds? They get dosed twice? Oh, I don't know, Chloe. According to legend, Chloe's plan backfires. Of course it did. 2 of the 3 children, Africa Gale, cool name, Africa Gale, and James, and Sarah Matilda, the unknowing wifey, each had slices of the poisoned cake. But Woodruff didn't eat any of it. Oh, man. I can just picture Chloe looking at him thinking, God, just eat it. You son of a bitch, just eat it. Before the end of the day, all of them were very sick. Chloe stepped up, patiently attending to their needs, never realizing, if it was indeed an accident, that she had given them too much poison. In a matter of hours, all 3 of them were dead. Immediately, all fingers were pointed at Chloe, who had prepared and baked the special cake. Things got serious. The other slaves, perhaps afraid that their owner would punish them also, dragged Chloe from her room and hanged her from a nearby tree. Hey, look at what he did for eavesdropping. Cutting off her ear? Okay, how about murdering his wife and 2 kids? No one wanted anything to do with that hot mess. Chloe's body was later cut down, weighted with rocks, and thrown into the river. Woodruff closed off the children's dining room where the party was held and never allowed it to be used again as long as he lived. Today, it's the game room. The game room. It was one of the rooms on my tour that I felt the creepiest in. And then the tour guide told me the story and I was like, oh, wow. I posted a weird photo of the game room on creepypodcast.com that I took, which, okay, there's a round mirror in there, and I kind of blew it up to see if I could catch anything because I think mirrors are super creepy and they can also be portals to other dimensions. I mean, that's what I've heard. Who knows? But when I magnified the part of the mirror, there's a figure in it. That's not me. It's a figure wearing a different outfit than I was wearing and a different outfit than my tour guide was wearing. Someone short in stature, like a small woman. It's blurry. Nothing like the ghost photo I took of the little boy, which is really clear. You can see his face. Still, curious and utterly fascinating. I'll post it on creepypodcast.com. When Sarah and the children died, all the mirrors in the house were covered so they would not get trapped. A common mourning practice. People were terrified that the souls of the recently departed could get trapped in their reflection. Yet someone forgot to include one of the mirrors. One of them wasn't covered. And Sarah and her 2 daughters are said to be trapped for eternity in one of the mirrors at the house. Oh man, that's awful. That's like a horror story. Well, the people at the Myrtles really believe the story, and they are occasionally seen or leave handprints in the mirror. This mirror has been changed over the years 3 different times. The mirror has been cleaned. The same markings appear. It looks like a woman's face and claw marks like someone's trying to desperately get out. I don't know. I posted pics as well, so you can take a look. It's a really out there creepy story. Who knows? Since her death, Chloe's ghost has been sighted too many times to be counted. It's always a very specific looking woman, a small Black woman with a green turban. Some guests have seen her walking or floating around the property, and a few claim to have seen her hovering over the beds as they slept. Oh, freaky! I love that people actually pay to stay in a spirited room in the hopes of having a terrifying encounter. Wow. Not my idea of like a romantic bed and breakfast experience, but hey, people like to keep it creepy. That's why I'm doing this podcast. This month, our Patreon fan bonus episode is a very creepy Thanksgiving murder special featuring some of the most depraved murders committed on Turkey Day. Hey, the holidays sometimes bring out the evil in some people. It can be a stressful time. And these creepy bastards chose a side of homicide with their Thanksgiving turkey. Please pass the pumpkin pie and don't miss this episode, available exclusively for my Patreon fans. You can find the Patreon link in my show notes or on creepypodcast.com. The owners have seen Chloe as well, and they've got proof. Here's the famous Chloe postcard story. Ready? The owners of the property were asked to take pictures of the grounds by their insurance company. You know, the insurance company wanted a photo of the distance between 2 buildings, in particular for fire. Okay, the photos were supposed to be clean photos with no people in them. Fine. The owner took pictures, sent them in, and a few weeks later received a rejection because there was a problem in one of the photos. What's the problem? Well, there is clearly a woman in one of the photos. Please send a new photo. The owner was confused. She was alone at the time. On closer examination, the owner noticed a dark-skinned woman clearly standing between 2 buildings. That woman was wearing a turban and also looks to be in period dress, exactly what an enslaved woman of the time may be dressed in. Oh my God. The photo's crazy. You have to check it out. They immediately wanted explanations. The owners sent the negatives to the National Geographic Explorer filming crew. Okay. They determined that the photograph definitely contained what appeared to be an apparition of what they believed to be a slave girl. The slave girl appeared in the breezeway between the general store and the butler's pantry of the mansion. Now, the horizontal exterior boards of the mansion were clearly visible through the body of the apparition. National Geographic Explorer used the photograph in their documentary and suggested that a postcard should be made of the photograph. Sure, why not? I wouldn't mind getting a postcard like that. That sounds kind of cool. But did you know that National Geographic was in the business of paranormal research? That's fascinating. Lots of experts have studied the photos. They all tend to believe that this is a genuine photo taken of a spirit. There's even an expert named Mr. Benoit who went through all the physical measurements of the apparition and discovered that they are actual human dimensions and proportions. The circumference of the head, the length of the shoulder to the elbow, and the length of the elbow to the wrist were all indicative of a human. Maybe I should have my ghost photo researched. I don't know. I don't even know how to do that. You think National Geographic will check out my photo? I don't know. But the photo of Chloe, it's called the postcard photo. It's awesome. Please check out creepypodcast.com to see it and to see my ghost photo of the little boy. Ooh, maybe I caught a photo of James, the boy who ate the poison cake and died so tragically. Who knows? It could have also been one of the children on the property who died of typhoid. A lot of children died on the property. Who knows who it could be? Woodruff was out of there. He took his surviving daughter, Mary Octavia, and moved. Laurel Grove was sold to Ruffin Gray Sterling. The Sterlings were crazy, wealthy people who owned several plantations on both sides of the Mississippi River. On January 1st, 1834, Ruffin Gray Sterling, what a great name, Ruffin Gray Sterling, and his wife, Mary Catherine Cobb, took over the house, land, and buildings, and all of the slaves. Since the Sterlings were leaders in the community, they needed a house befitting their social status. They decided to remodel Laurel Grove. The completed project nearly doubled the size of the original house, and in keeping with the renovations, they needed a new name. The name of the plantation was officially changed to the Myrtles, in honor of the crepe myrtles around the property. Sterling died in 1854 and left the plantation to his wife. The family was often visited by tragedy. Of 9 children, only 4 of them lived to be old enough to marry. The oldest son, Louis, died in the same year as his father. And the war, the Civil War. The war wreaked havoc on the Myrtles and on the Sterling family. Many of the family's personal belongings were looted and destroyed by Union soldiers, although the structure remained intact. The wealth they had accumulated was ultimately in worthless Confederate currency. Oops. To make matters worse, Mary Cobb had invested heavily in sugar plantations that had been ravaged by the war. Oops again. 3 Union soldiers were killed in the house after they broke in and attempted to loot the place. They were allegedly shot to death in the gentleman's parlor, leaving bloodstains on the floor that refused to be wiped away. Interesting. I wonder who killed them. No information on that. But the blood on the floor. There is a famous story that after the Myrtles was opened as an inn, a maid was mopping the floor, and when she reached the spot where the bloodstains were, she was, no matter how hard she tried, unable to clean it. Supposedly, the spot was the same size as a human body. Oh, God, creepy. I feel so sorry for that maid. And this was said to have been where one of the Union soldiers fell. Oh, man. She's like, this is not part of my job description. The strange phenomena lasted for a month and has not occurred since. There is just so many stories of murders and death on the property. Here we go. One of the famous ones is the Sterling's daughter, Sarah Mulford's husband, William. He was murdered on the front porch of the house after the Civil War. His murder was never solved. The story goes that William was teaching a Sunday school lesson in the gentleman's parlor of the house. How angelic! When he heard someone approach the house on horseback. After the stranger called out to him, saying that he had some business with him, "Get out of the house, I got some business with you." William went out onto the side gallery. I don't know if he was holding his Bible or not, but he was shot. Most people say it was a gambling debt gone wrong. According to the legend, William, mortally wounded, staggered back into the house, passed through the gentleman's parlor and the ladies' parlor, and onto the staircase that rises from the central hallway. He then climbed all the way up to his beloved's arms on the 17th step. There is a ghost who reportedly walks, staggers, or crawls up the stairs and stops on the 17th step. People say this is William Drew Winter. I walked up to the 17th step, but I didn't feel any paranormal vibes. It's a good story, though. He died in the arms of his love. Also, another Sterling died. The oldest son, Rufin Gray Sterling, was allegedly to have been stabbed to death in the house over a gambling debt. So many gambling debts. Money makes people do crazy things. Well, the plantation was heavily in debt and was finally sold. As the plantation shifted owners through the years, a number of the owners' children ended up passing away from disease and other ailments that were not out of the ordinary for the time, but the legend of the house being cursed began to grow. Throughout the years, people who moved into the home started having paranormal experiences. One such story is a haunting reported of a young girl who died in 1868. Despite being treated by a local voodoo practitioner, she supposedly appears in the room in which she died and has been reported to practice voodoo on people sleeping in the room. So the little girl is practicing voodoo in her afterlife? That's interesting. Well, the property changes hands again and again and is finally purchased by Marjorie Munson, an Oklahoma widow who had been made wealthy by chicken farms. What an interesting gal. So she just moved to Louisiana by herself and bought this haunted plantation. Interesting. She apparently noticed odd things happening around the Myrtles, resulting in numerous ghost stories. In fact, she's the one who is said to have spread the rumors of the hauntings. The plantation has played host to a wide variety of guests, from curiosity seekers to historians to ghost hunters to me. Over the years, a number of films and documentaries have also been shot on the grounds, and many of them, of course, have been paranormal in nature. It's a creepy place. One film, which was not paranormal, was a television miniseries made back in the day called The Long Hot Summer, starring Don Johnson, Sybil Shepherd, Ava Gardner, and Jason Robards. A portion of the film was shot at the Myrtles, and they had some great stories there. The cast and crew experienced a lot of freaky stuff that they would never forget. Here's the famous story. One day, the crew moved the furniture in the game room. Remember the game room? That's where the children died and where I got my creepy feeling. They moved the furniture from the game room to the dining room for filming and then left. When they returned the next day to shoot, they reported that the furniture had all been moved back to its original position. Ooh, creepy. No one was inside either room while the crew was absent. Now, I can attest to this. When you wrap for the day, everything's locked up. No one gets in there till the next day. So I guess the ghosts were busy that night rearranging the furniture. Oh, and they didn't want the film crew there, I bet. So creepy. Well, this happened several times and made a lot more work for the crew. But they finally did get the shots they needed and moved on. Wow. Employees of the house often get the worst of the events that happen there. One employee was hired to greet guests at the front gate each day. Okay, cool. Well, one day while he was at work, a woman in white, old-fashioned dress, she walks through the gate without speaking to him. She strolled up to the house and vanished through the front door without ever opening it. The poor guy, he quit his job and never returned to the house. And all the employees have experiences there. Hair pulling, pushing, touching, creepy feelings, cold spots. A lot of people see little children. A lot of people hear sounds of children playing. The grand piano on the first floor plays by itself. A lot of people hear this one. It's usually repeating the same chord over and over again. Sometimes it continues on through the night. And when someone comes into the room to investigate the sound, the music stops. And then we'll start again when they leave. That's funny, actually. If I was a ghost, I might mess with people like that. Well, another murder allegedly occurred in 1927 when a caretaker at the house, Eddie Harrelson, was supposedly killed during a robbery. Now, this happened in the caretaker's cottage, which if you go back and remember your Ghost Hunters episode, they had a lot of paranormal activity in the caretaker's cottage. Even on the Myrtles website, they call it like the most spirited room in the house. And it's a creepy cottage, kind of like out of the way of the plantation that you can stay in. Ooh, I think I'd want to stay there. That's pretty cool. But the rooms are beautiful too. If you ever get the opportunity, I highly recommend staying there. I mean, if you don't mind having these experiences, I don't know. There is no denying that the sheer number of accounts that have been reported and collected here would cause the house to qualify as one of the most haunted sites in the country. Now, interestingly, historical records tend to prove that Sarah Matilda and her children were never actually murdered, but died from disease. And astoundingly, there is no record of any slave named Chloe ever existing, nor one with a similar name. Now, the records kept on slaves at the property apparently weren't that great. And I don't know. Maybe because she was murdered on the property, maybe she was erased to history. I don't know. It's interesting, though. Death records show that the Woodruff children died of yellow fever. Did the Myrtles Plantation make up all of these stories, all of these ghost stories, to promote their property? To try to continue the lore of it being the most haunted place in America? I don't know. They're great stories, though. And I had an experience there. I mean, I had several experiences. I don't know. It's interesting. Were these stories made up? Are they stories that were lost to history? The Myrtles can be a perplexing place. History has shown that many of these stories that have been told about the place, mostly to explain the hauntings, they never actually occurred. In spite of this, though, the house seems to be haunted. The truth seems to be an elusive one that this grand old plantation house seems to have no question for those who have stayed or visited here that it is a spirited place. Psychics and mediums claim that the reason the Myrtles is so haunted is because it contains a spiritual vortex. Interesting. Incidentally, the room where the little boy was peering out at me, where I photographed him, was located in what mediums claim to be the heart of the vortex, the ladies' parlor. It's a mystery. I'm not sure if the Myrtles is the most haunted place in the U.S. I need to investigate more to make that claim. However, for me, I have a couple photos of what I can only describe as supernatural, and it is proof to me that this place is truly haunted. Do you have a creepy true crime or paranormal story that you would like to share on Aimee Keeps It Creepy? I know you do. Please email a brief description of your story to info@creepypodcast.com. I can't wait to get creeped out. Thank you for listening.
Toxic content. Toxic